Yo, what's going on YouTube? Welcome back to another MLB trade rumor video. It's kind of funny because this video is a conglomeration of a couple of videos that we've already done. You should go check those out, maybe before this one, if you want to see kind of the developing story of Max Kepler from the Minnesota Twins and Pablo Lopez from the Marlins. Oddly enough, this video combines them both, and there's a trade rumor with the Twins and the Marlins about Pablo Lopez and Max Kepler. There's a couple of other pieces involved in that trade as well, but that is what we are going to talk about right here, right now, and I hope you guys enjoy. So, if you do, make sure to leave a like and subscribe because it helps the channel out. We're still on our way to 4,000 subscribers. And I want to know what you guys think about this trade possibility in the comments down below. Of course, that's why I do all of these videos in the first place, is to talk to you guys about baseball. So let's jump into this. And this is going to be kind of loose-ended. And what I mean by that is I have pulled up baseballtradevalues.com. It's the same website we've used before that gives you numbers whether or not a player is a good trade or not based on a few different factors. I don't actually know what all of those factors are, but regardless, this website knows a lot more than I do, so we trust it. And it says, straight off the bat, if the Twins want Lopez, which is the rumor. Here, I'll give you the rumor first. The rumor is that the Marlins and Twins have discussed the trade possibility involving Pablo Lopez and Max Kepler. Now, if you go over to the baseball trade simulator, Lopez has an MTV of 38.7. Quite good. I mean, especially for Lopez, like we've talked about several times, the dude he's not probably the ace of that team, of course, with Sandy, but he is a strong second and an ace on a lot of teams, especially because he is in his prime at 27 years old. He will be 27 next year, I should say, going into 2023. He's played for the Marlins, and even though he's played for the Marlins, his numbers have been pretty solid with a FIP under, 3.5. That ERA is right around 3 as well, but again, you're playing in a huge Marlins park with a pretty bad team, so those are pretty good numbers. Strikes out about a guy per inning, the ERA plus a little bit over 100, a little bit over an average pitcher. Like, he is a pretty solid guy, and again, maybe not an ace in most places, but definitely top 2, and probably could be the ace on a team like the Twins because, yeah, you've got Kenta Maeda, who has shown potential to be an ace places, back before his injury. Of course, Sonny Gray was the ace of the Reds, and he didn't really pan out to be the ace of the Twins. So Maddox was another one who, before his injury, could have been a really top starter. None of those guys really showed a lot. They also got injured. So maybe you look at Lopez, who wasn't framed to be that guy who was an ace, but maybe takes on that position. But anyway, he is at a 38 MTV. You look at the other guy in the trade, Kepler, he is only at a 7.6 MTV, and he really, really struggled this last year. Arguably his worst season ever, maybe? Let's take a look at his numbers. So he is also right over his prime, I would say. He's 30 now, and he has been in a decline since 2019. 2019, he was in the MVP conversation. He received some votes. He had a great year, had over 30 home runs. He had 36. He was one of the leaders on that team when the Bomba squad had 3 guys over 30. Then he really declined. Did not hit 10 home runs in 2 of the last 3 years. He really, one was a COVID year, so I guess that doesn't necessarily count, but really struggled last year where he only hit 9 home runs and 43 RBI, 115 games, and he's had his lowest OPS plus, not ERA plus, ever, besides his first year where he played 3 games in 2015. So he is right around an average player, but he does bring a lot of value to a team like the Marlins because he's a lefty, which is good. The Twins have a ton of left-handed hitters, by the way, which necessarily isn't good or bad, but it's something to note that they have Wallner, Larnach, Kirilloff, Gordon, and now Joey Gallo, who are all left-handed, and all of those guys can play the outfield position. Kepler arguably is the worst of them all, I would say, or at least in comparison to Larnach and Wallner and Kirilloff. I would argue, still have so much more potential that they can show, whereas Kepler is on the other end of it, and it's just kind of a downhill slope from there. Obviously, money becomes an impact a little bit as well. Nick Gordon maybe tends to play more of the infield, but can go to left field sometimes, so he's kind of a utility player. Max Kepler, older guy, 30 years old, starting to cost a little bit of money, and he just isn't producing like the younger guys have compared to his potential, right? So from a player standpoint, he seems to be the first to go in terms of a player that a team can use as a veteran, right? Not necessarily as an experienced veteran, but as somebody who can provide talent to younger players, provide experience to the team. The Marlins are also notorious for doing this. I've mentioned this in a couple of other videos as well. They like to sign older players, maybe not 30 years old, but Gene Segura, Jesus Aguilar, give me a couple of other guys. I had it on this list, but I guess they're escaping me at the moment. De La Cruz, right? Like these older kind of guys. And I guess De La Cruz is 25, and he came up in the Marlins system. So maybe that's not the best example either. Regardless, I had a list. I forgot. That's on me. But they like to do this. They like to go get older guys, players that are good. They show some potential. They're cheap, or they can get them cheap, right? So wrapping that all up, does it make sense to put in Lopez and Kepler in the same trade? Sure, but the Twins are going to have to give something else up, and there are two players on the team that I think could be in the conversation, and obviously you look to prospects and future talent as well. Maybe not something that the Marlins usually do, so this is the trade proposal that MLB Trade Rumors has suggested. Of course, Lopez for Kepler, but then for the Twins, you also add in a Rise. And that is a touchy subject, I would say, for most Twins fans. Obviously, the AL batting champion last year. He is really good, and I think it would be very bad for the Twins to even consider trading him. I know there were some rumors last year. And good note, though, if you are an Arise fan and you heard me say that, it looks like the Twins have been in discussion with the Marlins before, even back to mid-December is what this article says, but the Twins are not interested in parting ways with Arise, so that's good. However, I know that, and the Marlins really don't need Arise, to be honest. Like, they've got Jazz, who's a lefty, and he's second base. That's kind of what Arise is, unless you're going to put Arise again at first, and I mean, maybe, because that's where he played this last year, but they really don't need a Rise. They probably need, they don't need pitching because the Twins are trying to get a pitcher from them. The Marlins have a lot of pitchers. You're getting your outfielder in Kepler. I'm guessing they would go the prospect route, but another possible candidate, I think, for the Twins is Polanco. And maybe this surprises you, but I think Polanco would be a much better trade option than Arise. One, because the Twins have said they don't want to trade Arise, even though that was the initial discussion between the two teams. But Polanco is, I think he's the longest tenured Twin. Is that true? Or one of them. He's like really, he's like one of that core guys. But here's the thing. He's under contract for 2 more years, 2023 and 2024. He is only $1 million. He is pretty cheap. And like the Twins, I would say, like the guy because he's a switch hitter. He was an all-star starting shortstop back in, I think, 2019 or something around there. He is cheap. He's pretty good. He's maybe not the guy anymore for the Twins, so he's more of a bench player, I would say, going into 2023 with the additions of Carlos Correa for the long term and maybe their younger talent like Royce Lewis if they decide to keep him. Polanco, I believe, kind of gets shifted to maybe where Kepler's at. But like I said just a few minutes ago, like he is a player that they want to establish as a guy in a Twins uniform as maybe that backup role. However, the MTV does allow for Polanco and Kepler to be in that same realm for Lopez. So that's the route of if the Marlins want to get talent like they, again, have before, they go out and get MLB level talent for cheap. And again, if that's the route that the Marlins want to continue going down, Polanco does fit that role a lot. So where do we go if you're looking at prospects? Let me pull up the list really quickly, because that's kind of the only other place you can go, right? Kepler is in this trade. They don't really need anyone else from the Twins, I would say. So you go to the prospect list, and this is where things do get a little bit interesting if you are the Twins, because you have some really good guys in your prospect list, but do you want to get rid of them, right? For a guy like Lopez, is he the guy that changes things for you? I mean, you look at a player like Royce Lewis, right? I mean, if it's not going to be an established player like Polanco or Arise, do you go take a Royce Lewis, who clearly the Twins don't need anymore or don't want anymore because they have Correa? Do you go out and get a guy like Brooks Lee, maybe even younger and better than Royce Lewis? Again, if you're looking at infielders, the Twins have a lot of them. And could they really just start to dish it out for Lopez? Again, he is their #1 prospect right now. So that is kind of a big topic, but it's possible. Or do you go like pitching? Maybe go younger, because that's what the Marlins like to do with Louis Varland. That's an interesting conversation. So the Twins don't really have, I don't think, what the Marlins are looking for in terms of prospects, in terms of secondary players, but they want Kepler, and the Twins want Lopez. So it's interesting to see where this trade will actually go, and if the Marlins will throw in any of their other young pitchers, and if the Twins want to throw in any of their either young, not relievers, sorry, their young infielders, because they have a ton of them, maybe another outfielder, because again, they have a ton of them, left-handers, or if they just want to go straight up MLB talent with like Kepler and Arise, or Kepler and Polanco. So lots on the table for these two teams to talk about. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments, because like I said, I'm a fan of these two teams, so I'm interested in this, but this is a possible big trade, big names involved for both teams. I'd love to know what you guys think, one way or another, which way you would go. So I hope you guys do enjoy the video. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Peace.